I want to talk about war. Imagine in 2021, April 2021, we're going to talk about war. Why would we be talking about war? You know, life is such that we've got incredible communication skills, things that we didn't have 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It's incredible that this is even up for topic. Back in 2015, there was a sort of a revolution that took place in Ukraine. It's referred to as a bit of a revolution. In fact, they gave it a name. It's called Maidan. At the end of the day, there was an uprising of protesters and rioters in the capital city of Kyiv. And they want change, they want change. Well, they did get change. The government leaders who were running the country at the time were not too excited about joining the European Union. And they voiced some reasons of why. And they've had some very solid reasons. Yet the people said, no, we want to join them. So the revolution began. But was it really a revolution? Let me ask a question. When a country pays a lot of poor people a daily wage, provides them with a hard hat, and provides stocks of bricks to throw and demonstrate with, is that a revolution? Or is that just an uprising afforded by people who could afford to pay for such a thing? What is it? It's probably not a true action. It's just a lot of mess going on. Well, at the same time, Crimea, which is a large peninsula area right on the north of the Black Sea, they too have been seeing what's going on and they just couldn't believe it. And in it, they became more and more frustrated with the governing bodies that were running the country at the time. Now, Crimea were being educated and they were being dated by Russia. And Russia was offering them some help, as well as education and some financial support. And in the process, they were able to hold a real election within their own area. And out of the results, 97% of the voters agreed that that area should leave Ukraine. And Kyiv paid no attention to this. Kyiv didn't give any concern to it because they were dealing with the Maidan situation going on. Now, the Maidan situation looks like the U.S. was the main instigator there, just trying to cause trouble. Because when those leaders start saying, oh no, we maybe don't really need to go the European way or the American way, that upsets some people far away. Because the last thing they want is for Ukraine to get close with Russia the way it was. So it's amazing these things are going on in this day and age. You've got Maidan happening, financially supported by the Americans. You've got Crimea going on where they're educated and financially supported by Russia to make a choice. And the choice they made was clear. They left. They voted. And that's what happened. Now, Crimea, it's connected by land to Ukraine. And there's several roads and rails that go into there. But it is not connected to Russia. So Russia scrambled and they designed and built a very impressive bridge that connects Crimea now to Russia. And Russia also learned very quickly in the relationship they had with Crimea that Ukraine is very important to Crimea because water that Crimea consumes comes from Ukraine. Well, through the events of the things that took place, Ukraine cut off Crimea from the water that naturally flowed through the channels getting into Crimea. So Russia's got some problems. But they just built a huge bridge. They can just hook a pipe and go under the bridge or beside the bridge or something. That won't work. The reason that won't work is because the very area where the bridge is connected to in Russia, that area is a very dry area as well. So they need water. Now here we are. We've got two powerful countries wanting things from Ukraine. So it looks like Ukraine has something to offer to the U.S. The U.S. would love to have a very strong military base right on the doorstep of Russia. That would be very, very helpful for the Americans. During all of these things that were going on with Maidan and Crimea, there was another area that started getting very hot under the collar and very upset with Kyiv, where the governing body is. And that area is called Donbass. Now, Donbass, if you look on a map, is basically straight north of Crimea. So between Donbass and Crimea is this big watershed. This is where the water comes from that feeds into Crimea. Yet, Donbass, they've got some issues. One, the Ukrainian government again came up with some more intelligent rules and laws, and they decided to ban Russian speaking. Now, when I say ban it, they want all ingredients, all things bought and sold in Ukraine with the Ukrainian language on the products, everything. In fact, recently, the newest law is when you walk into some service store, they need to be able to speak clearly to you, firstly to you in Ukrainian. Well, a lot of the world doesn't know this, but half of Ukraine don't speak Ukrainian. They speak Russian. And so half the country really doesn't want what the government has set in place. Yet the other half, they're very happy to be in the Ukrainian language. So Donbass is one of those areas. They just don't know Ukrainian. They know Russian. So that was one of the main reasons why there's been so many problems with the Donbass area. So the Ukrainian government, in the negotiations trying to get Donbass back on board, they offered to them, they said, look, we'll leave your zone in the Russian language. It'll be the only zone in Ukraine like this, but we'll make an exception. Well, that's still not enough to sway them. Now, Donbass has a lot of natural resources. In fact, there's a coal area where they take coal out of the ground. And that's primarily where Ukraine was getting all their coal up until all this fighting started and so on. So here we are. The coal dries up, and the reason it dries up, again, Ukraine's a very corrupt place. The people running the coal mine, they pocket the wages, they pocket as much money as they can, and they go away. And now Ukraine has no coal. They have a coal mine, they have all of this, but it's not functioning, so they need coal. So right away, the immediate neighbor, which is Poland, on the other side of Ukraine, they have coal, $265 per ton, US dollars. And that is the world going rate, more or less. It's pretty straightforward. And Ukraine is ready to make them a deal. But the US came to the table and they said, look, we've got coal as well. Well, it's $265 a ton right here, Poland. It's just across the border. It's not far. But let's hear what they've got to say. Well, as fast as they could, the Americans signed up Ukraine. And how did they do that? They're pretty smart. First off, their price is nearly 3 times of what Poland's price is. It's above $800 per ton. Imagine, above $800. And the government found that it was better to deal with the Americans and give them $850 whatever dollars a ton compared to giving Poland $265. Well, here's the difference. Poland, you got to pay for it and you can take it. That's how it works. Where the U.S. said, you know what, don't worry about it. We'll sit on it. You can pay us later. So all of a sudden, a product, a commodity necessary is a good price at 3 times the price. Just doesn't make sense. Again, corruption runs deep in Ukraine. Now, Russia, why do they want Crimea? Well, Russia's got a huge appetite for coastal waters. And the Black Sea runs, I believe, on three sides of Crimea. So it's very attractive to Russia. They can have their military boats in there. They can have a lot of land along the sea, and that's very attractive to them. So in the news, we've got some rumors of war coming on, where Russia is going to fight Ukraine. Well, I don't see it quite like that. Here's what I see. Ukraine has a problem with a group of people right on the border of Russia, but in Ukraine. And this rebellious group, they don't want to be part of Ukraine. And the reality is they don't want to be part of Russia either. They're very much caught in the middle. Now, this group, they're happy to take something of free origin from Ukraine and use it. They're also happy to take something of free origin from Russia. Problem is, Russia's not looking at it like it's free. You know, there's a payback. And so in the current situation, Kyiv is trying to get Donbass to calm down and just be part of Ukraine and all of this. Meanwhile, they're saying, no, we're not going to do that. We want to be very independent from you. Now, they nor have the education nor the funds, the ability to become a sovereign nation. It's a very small group. It's a very small area. And yet, Russia feels very threatened because if there is any military action in that zone, it's extremely likely that the war can spill into Russia because it is right along the border. So Russia is feeling very insecure or threatened, maybe not insecure, but threatened with the fact that there's fighting right on the border. And of course, no country would like that or put up with it. So here we are. What do we do? Now, again, back to the Maidan situation. Ukraine is very much indebted to U.S. and some European countries because they've been loaning them money, very low interest, if interest. They've been selling them coal at 3 times the price just to help them out. And so you got that happening. And now you've got Russia who's helping Donbass. And of course, they're going to want something back in return. It'd be so nice if they can all, this is what would work the best. If the Ukrainian leadership could sit down with the Donbass people and make a deal and just fix the problem. But there's a bigger problem. As I've already said, the U.S. have got their part now into the main part of Ukraine. They're looking for some pretty big payback. The Russians now have some investment into Donbass, and they're looking for some big payback. So there's really no way to resolve the situation because it's gone beyond the size of Ukraine and beyond the size of the group in Donbass. What do? You go to war. This is the ultimate answer. And, you've got to admit that countries are always looking for a new place to start a war. See, back in their own country, be it the US, the UK, be it Russia, they need to continue to encourage their population to pay the taxes they're paying and buy more of the military supplies that they need. This is a huge expense for all of these countries. And they need it to, one, protect themselves, protect their sovereign nations. And they also need it to help the poor, impoverished countries like Ukraine from being bullied from the big country like Russia. Again, it seems so silly, but this is where we're at. So Ukraine has learned that they've got a gravy train going on and they don't want to upset it. See, if they keep playing into the richer countries whereby, they follow their lead and they do all the right stuff, they continue getting funding. The moment they stop this, the funding could stop, and that would really hurt because Ukraine cannot financially support itself. It's been that way for a very long time. And I don't know, Ukraine is such a corrupt place. Like, corruption runs deep. So in the political system in Canada, you'll get a new party coming in and running the country, and it's their policies and so on. But the people who run the tax offices and do all of the duties to fulfill the government services throughout the country, those people don't change. And the same happens here in Ukraine. So we've got yet another political leader, and they're very positive. They got a lot of good things going for them, and it's all wonderful. But all of those service providers to the local people, the corruption runs deep. And it's nearly impossible to stop, because it feeds from the bottom, going up and up and up. It's quite a shame. It's pretty bad. But here we are. If you watch the news, if you see some things, they talk about war. And Russia's lining up their equipment all along the border. 26 battalions is what I heard. Belarus is yet on another part of the border just near Russia as well, and Ukraine. They're lining up their equipment because they don't want these problems to enter into their countries. They need to keep their places safe. Ukraine is putting, well, they did. Ukraine put their, couple machines over there, but the U.S. has provided hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of green machines now. And again, they're protecting their investment, I suppose. So we'll see how all this plays out. Talk soon.